Phenomena.
Hey everybody, thanks for joining me for another screencast at teachmetocode.com. This time I want to talk about securing your data in your database. One of the things that I like to be able to do, let's say I want to store personal information like certain passwords I want to keep private, or maybe credit card information, social security number, stuff like that. Let's go over how we could do that. So the first thing I want to do is create a quick little application where we can actually start storing some data here. So let's create a new Rails program or a Rails app, and let's call it Secure Data. Okay, so in Secure Data, we're going to create. First, let's go ahead and install the layout real quick. So we're going to generate a nifty layout and call it Application. So that will give us our layout that we need. And now let's create a quick scaffold here. And the scaffold will be, let's just call it user. So in the user, we're going to have information like first name, last name, let's say bank account number, social security number, and that's probably good for right now. So if we were to actually, let's just do one for right now. You can do multiple, but we're just going to do one. And instead of that, we're going to just use social security number. Okay, so we generate that scaffold. Let's create the database real quick, and let's load our application right here. So we go to localhost. So there we have it, and we go our users. We have first name Eric Barry. Yeah, right. I'm not going to give you that. I think it is 9 digits long. Go ahead and create that. So there we go. We have some information, and so now that we have that, we want to make sure that this is very secure. So there is a gem that I've found that I really like. It's called Strongbox by SpikeX. Now, he's the guy that wrote the article a long time ago on how to encrypt data in your database, and more recently he's created a gem that you can use that will do that for you. Now, this is using public and private keys. I'm not going to get into the depths of or the complexities of this gem, because honestly, SpikeX is a lot smarter than I am. I'm a user and I know how to use it, so that's good enough for me. So you're going to notice though that the documentation on this gem is a little bit weak. Not that it doesn't have the information, but it's just not formatted properly. So it's difficult to read. So what I did was I forked it, and I just kind of cleaned up the documentation a little bit, solely for being able to show you how to do this. So I've sent SpikeX a link to update it, so we'll get that done hopefully. But for right now, let's just go with this documentation here. So the first thing I want to do is add the requirement for the gem. So let me open up this app in TextMate, and we'll go into our environment folder, or our environments.rb, and we're going to add our gem. So let me just sort these a little bit here. So now that we have that, we can run sudo rake gems install, and that should install a gem for you if you don't have it already. I already had it, so it's not going to show anything. And once that's done, we can go in and modify our database a little bit. Now, the way he has it, you can have it do one of two ways, and I believe what he calls it is, let's see here, symmetric. Now, if you know your data is going to be really short, like for example, the social security number is never going to be more than 9 digits long, we really don't need to use symmetric. So in this case, I would use symmetric as never. However, that being the case, I'd like to show you if you were to store any size of data, we're going to go ahead and do that. So what I want to do is create a new migration, and let's migration, and let's call it add security fields to users. Okay. Oops. Script generate migration. There we go. And now that we have that in there, we can fill out these fields. Now there are he stores the fields in binary format. So, for example, in this case, we're going to go ahead and switch our SSN to binary, and I didn't do that right. SSN key. So we have a key and an IV, and the IV is, again, it's the initialization vector. Much smarter guy than I am, so if you want to read into that and want to understand it, go for it. I'm more interested in the results. So remove columns, and of course what we need to do is first we need to remove the current column, and then we're going to add the column afterwards on the self dot down. So you're going to notice that I'm not doing this in a way that will maintain my current data, so I'm going to wipe out my database and redo it. Or I could run this, but I'm just going to wipe out the database because it's easier. So there we go, our database is gone, and we created it. So if we look at the schema, you'll notice that we have three binary fields. One is SSN, one is SSN key, and one is SSN IV. The next thing we want to do is go to our users class, our users model, and add in this call right here. So we want to encrypt with public key, and then it passes in the key pair. Now the key pair, he does have very good instructions on how to generate that, which is right here. So I'm going to show you how he has us do it. So I'm just going to copy and paste that, and I'll pass in a password, which will be password, and that generates the private key. Now we can generate the public key from that. It'll ask for the password again, if I can type it right. Okay, so we now have a public and a private PEM, and if you look in our environment, yeah, here they are right here. So we have our public and our private PEM. So the last thing we can do is just concatenate those into one, and now we have our key pair. So I'm going to delete these two. We don't need them anymore. And there we go. We actually do have it right there in our config folder. So let's go ahead and give this a shot real quick. I'm not sure if I'm forgetting anything, but we'll give it a shot. So here we go on users. Let's create a new user. Eric, Barry. Okay, so here you see we have an encrypted data, and it also encrypts right here. You'll see the binary data going in. And another thing that we're probably going to want to do is on our application controller, we're going to want to make sure that we remove that from our logs as well. So even this we don't want to be able to see. Let's have it show as hidden. So let's go ahead and add a new one. John Doe, and what is that? 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. Actually, let's do another one. There we go. Reverse. There we go. John Doe's encrypted. I'm encrypted. And now, if you look in here, it's still okay. It still shows as the gobbledygook. So who cares? Anyway. All right, so we're back in here now, and we can edit it. It shows currently as data that really isn't readable. So how do we read this data? Let's go into our console, and it's secure data. Let's go to our console and take a look. User.first. So we have user.ssn is a lockbox object. So if we do user.ssn.toString, we have encrypted. If we try and decrypt it, we can do that by passing in our password, which is password, and that'll return it to us. So the only way we can have that is if we do have the password. Other than that, the database data is completely useless. So you want to make sure you use a really good password on that. So let's talk about how we're going to use this data, unencrypted data, for viewing. How we want to do that is I'm going to create a little config file. So let's do another one of Ryan Bates' generators. We're going to create a nifty config, and we're going to call it security password. And that creates a couple of files for us. Here we have our security password YAML file, and what we can do is say, okay, well, for testing and for development, I'm going to say password file path is users Eric dot secure password, and that will be where I store the password. So in fact, let me go ahead and do that real quick. Secure password, and there we go. It looks like I've already done this before. It's password. So we have that there. Let's go ahead and put it there, and then for your production, of course, you can have that relative to wherever you have it on your production server. So now that we have that, let's go to our initializer, and you see that it does load the YAML file that we have based on the environment. Well, we don't really want to do that. I want to have it so we have key pair password is equal to, and I'm going to just do a file.read, and I believe all I have to do here is pass in the security password config, and then I just get the key, which is password file path, and then that should load it. And if I'm right, once we load our console, there we go, we have password, but it has that new line at the end, so I'm going to just strip that out, and we'll try it again. So puts key pair password, there we go, we have password. So now that we have that, we will go back to our we'll go back over to our views actually, and we'll go to index. So right here we can have decrypt and pass in the key pair password. Oops, got to start the server. And there we go. We have them right there. And that is a just a quick example of how you can use SpikeX's Strongbox gem to secure your data. And this is something that I found very useful, and I was excited about, so I wanted to share it with you. And I hope that everybody can use what we had here. And again, big thanks to SpikeX, and good job. This screencast is brought to you by Camtasia for Mac. You can record what happens on your screen and turn it into stunning video at the perfect size to share online or on a portable device. You can find them at www.techsmith.com.
That was wonderful.
Bravo!
I loved that.
Oh, it was great.
Well, it was pretty good.
Well, it wasn't bad.
Well, there were parts of it that weren't very good, though.
It could have been a lot better.
I didn't really like it.
It was pretty terrible.
It was bad.
It was awful.
It was terrible.
Get him away!
Hey, boo!
Boo!